Before the shield wall, Viking warfare was chaos. Men charging alone, driven by rage and glory. But against organized foes like the Saxons, that chaos met its match. It wasn't courage they lacked, it was discipline. And soon the Vikings would learn to fight as one. Somewhere in the 9th century, Norse war leaders realized something simple. Shields were stronger together. The Skjaldborg, or shield fortress, was born. Rows of warriors locked shields edge to edge, turning chaos into geometry. It was no longer a brawl, it was a moving wall of iron. The shield wall demanded unity. One man faltered and all could die. Vikings trained to move, strike, and breathe as one rhythm. Each shield covered his brother's flank. Each man's life depended on the next. This was no longer barbarism. It was precision warfare. When the Saxons charged, their fury broke against the Viking wall like waves on rock. Every clang of steel echoed unity. The shield wall held, not by strength alone, but by trust. It was brotherhood forged in iron. Viking warbands drilled tirelessly. Every morning, shield to shield, they practiced stepping, thrusting, holding. A single mistake could open a gap, a death sentence in battle. Discipline turned raiders into soldiers. In England, the Vikings met their equals. The Anglo-Saxon feared, armored and ready. Both sides stood in lines, their banners fluttering under gray skies. It was not a battle of bravery anymore, but of formation and faith. Trumpets roared. The Saxons charged downhill. The Viking wall waited. The ground shook as shields clashed. The first row buckled, but the second pushed forward. Unity held. Commands echoed, "Hold the line!" Each man pressed his shield forward, shoulder to shoulder. Behind them, the second row thrust spears through gaps. The wall was alive, breathing, fighting. Hours passed, and the lines blurred with blood and sweat. One Saxon gap opened. The Vikings pushed in with roars. Like a crack in ice, the enemy formation split. But the Saxons were no cowards. They formed a new wall, their shields locking in desperation. Two walls clashed again, iron grinding against iron. No side would yield. The Vikings adapted. While the center held, flankers looped around. Axes and spears struck from the side, crumbling the Saxon edge. It was no longer just a wall, it was a trap. From the center, the raven banner flew high, symbol of Odin's favor. Vikings roared with faith, driving forward as one beast. The Saxons wavered under the storm of unity. Now the Vikings pressed on, axes rising and falling like waves. Each strike measured, each step in unison. They were a machine of muscle and faith. The Saxon wall bent, then broke. Men fled through mud and snow. The Vikings did not chase, they held formation, victory through discipline. Silence fell. Only the wind and ravens remained. The Vikings stood unbroken, their walls scarred but standing. They had proven unity was the strongest weapon of all. As daylight faded, the field became a sea of broken shields and steaming breath. But the Viking line still held, ranks tightening, voices chanting in deep rhythm. Their commander walked behind the wall, shouting over the wind, "Stand! Stand for Odin!" With every echo, the men struck their shields in unison, the sound rolling like thunder across the plain. The Saxons, exhausted and freezing, began to falter, the tide of battle turning toward the Northmen. Then came the command no enemy wished to hear. "Forward!" The wall began to move step by step, shields still locked, spears thrusting through the gaps. Mud splashed, boots stomped, the earth trembled beneath the weight of their unity. To the Saxons, it looked less like men, more like a rolling fortress. Every heartbeat, every motion was shared. One body, one will, one unstoppable force. The Vikings no longer fought for plunder, but for something greater. brotherhood, and survival. When the Saxon line finally broke, the Vikings halted, their shields dented, their arms trembling. No shouts of triumph, only deep silence, breath heavy with frost. They had conquered not through rage or numbers, but through discipline, through unity. For generations to come, every northern warlord would remember this day. The shield wall had proven that, in the chaos of battle, order was the ultimate strength. It was not just a tactic, it was the soul of the Viking way. When the last Saxon cries faded, the battlefield fell silent. Broken shields littered the frozen ground, each one bearing scars of brotherhood. Among the bodies, the Viking commander stood still, his breath fogging in the cold air. He looked upon his men, bloodied but unbroken, and whispered, "Together we live." The shield wall had turned raiders into an army, and chaos into order. In the years that followed, Viking warbands carried the lesson of the wall across the seas. They learned that victory came not from rage, but from trust. The man beside you, the shield before you. The shield wall became their unwritten code. Fight for the one next to you or die together. From Norway to England, this bond forged legends that even kings feared. Over time, the Viking art of unity reshaped warfare itself. Anglo-Saxons, Normans, even the Scots studied their tactics. Lines, shields, discipline. What began as a savage formation became the root of medieval infantry strategy. Every army that valued cohesion owed something to the Northmen. The shield wall was more than survival. It was innovation born from necessity. As the centuries passed, shields grew thinner and swords grew longer. Archers, cavalry, and firepower made the old wall obsolete. But the spirit remained, unity over chaos, brotherhood over fear. Even when the shield wall disappeared, its soul lived on in every disciplined rank that followed. In sagas and songs, the shield wall became legend, sung by skalds in smoky halls. They told of men who stood shoulder to shoulder, defying death together. Their courage echoed beyond the north, carried by the waves and remembered by time. Even today, the words "stand firm" carry the soul of the Viking line. In the end, the shield wall was never just wood and iron. It was faith in one another, in survival, in unity. The Vikings, once wild and divided, found strength in standing together. Their enemies broke, their bodies fell, but their idea endured through time. To stand as one, that was the lesson of the North. A wall not of shields, but of men, unyielding, unbroken, eternal.